Last month, I stumbled upon a particularly interesting study I saw in the journal Social, Psychological, and Personality Science, which, as you all know, I do read each morning as I sip my single-origin Honduran coffee. It caught my eye because it touches upon several things that I find interesting, like conspiracy theories and political corruption. It's called Suspecting Foul Play When It Is Objectively There, the association of political orientation with general and partisan conspiracy beliefs as a function of corruption levels. And I will begin by summarizing it in a way that will make you think it's stupid. People who live in corrupt societies are more likely to believe in conspiracy theories. But wait, okay, don't switch over to a video about Destiny reacting to H3 reacting to TikTok videos. It's not stupid, and here's why. The researchers are actually building upon a ton of previous studies that have established pretty solidly that conservatives are more likely than liberals on average to believe in stupid, obviously untrue conspiracy theories. Like, liberals definitely have their own conspiracy theories, and I know because I lived through the golden age of 9/11 truthers, but right-wing conspiracy theories tend to be a lot more common and more widely believed by their intended demographic. So these social psychologists were interested in knowing whether or not they could find outside factors that would make that difference between left and right-wing conspiracy theorists start to disappear. And because we also have some existing research to suggest that people are more prone to conspiratorial thinking in corrupt, chaotic, or authoritarian societies, they decided to compare conspiracy beliefs in different countries with very different levels of corruption. At this point, I do have to point out a little red flag. They used an existing data set and they did not appear to pre-register their hypothesis. And you know, pre-registration is my jam. That's really important in studies like this, where you could easily have researchers who just pan through a vast amount of data, just looking for any kind of statistically significant blip, and then they find it and they make that their hypothesis, you know. I'm not saying that that's what happened here, but it could have. So, you know, you should bear that in mind and understand that this all needs to be taken into context with the full body of research, which does appear to support this paper's conclusion. The data set in question consists of surveys of about 20,000 people spread across 23 different countries, most of which are in Europe. This was used in a study published back in January in Nature Human Behavior. That survey used local researchers in each of those countries to list their unique conspiracy theories, which they then pitched to subjects to see if they believed in them. They checked those subjects' political orientations, and they found that conspiracy mentality is associated with extreme left and especially extreme right-wing beliefs, and that this nonlinear relation may be strengthened by, but is not reducible to, deprivation of political control. So that was, like this one, a study to find out more about what leads people to believe conspiracy theories beyond right versus left wing. And the mitigating factor that they pinpointed was that people without political power may be more likely to believe in conspiracy theories. For this new study, these researchers viewed those surveys through the lens of how corrupt those countries are. To do that, they use the Corruption Perceptions Index, which measures how corrupt each country in the world is perceived, because it's kind of hard to directly measure how corrupt a country is. Hold on, I hear you cry. Isn't that recursive? If locals perceive corruption, maybe they're just believing in false conspiracies, which makes them more likely to believe in conspiracy theories. I get it. I mean, that's what I thought too. But it turns out that the Corruption Perceptions Index isn't just a survey of people in each country being asked, is your country corrupt? I mean, It kind of was that in earlier incarnations, but these days they actually use multiple different surveys of different institutions that are then evaluated by expert analysts. And independent research has actually confirmed that the Corruption Perceptions Index, while not perfect, does match up pretty well with other known metrics of corruption like black market activity. And yes, I know that many of you now have another concern. Obviously, people living in places where the government is corrupt are more likely to believe conspiracy theories about how the government is corrupt because the government is, in fact, corrupt. Like, people who live in blue houses are more likely to believe that they live in blue houses. Mind blown. But no. I must continue to insist that this study is, in fact, more interesting than that. Because, yes, some conspiracy theories really are more likely to be true in those countries, but the conspiracy theories the subjects were asked about were not all about just corrupt governments. The researchers broke them down by who the agitator was in each conspiracy theory. And they included the government, yes, but also corporations / rich people, intelligence agencies, ethnic minorities, scientists / intellectuals, foreign countries, and NGOs / activists. And while, yes, intelligence agencies and corporations and foreign countries can all engage in real conspiracies in corrupt countries, I guarantee you that none of these countries have serious corruption problems due to, say, the Jews or the scientists. And in line with the words that I, an English-speaking left-leaning person, just said, English-speaking left-leaning people exclusively agreed with conspiracies about corporations and politicians. Meanwhile, English-speaking right-leaning people agreed with conspiracies about politicians and scientists. See where I'm going with this? Sure enough, the researchers did find that the more corrupt the country was, the more likely it was for there to be less of a difference between how many right and left-leaning people believed in conspiracy theories. Presumably because while right-leaning people continued to believe in absolute horseshit, a greater number of left-leaning people were more likely to agree that yeah, there really is something fishy happening here with politicians and corporations. And sometimes they're political opponents and with foreign countries. They're not necessarily right about the specific conspiracy theories that they endorse, but they do have more evidence to suggest that those theories are true compared to the right-wing conspiracies about the Jews. The researchers point out that these corrupt societies encourage everyone to adopt a more conspiratorial mentality, and that mentality becomes more socially acceptable, which evens out the number of right and left-leaning people believing conspiracies. Interestingly, the only country where left-leaning people believed in terribly bullshit conspiracy theory seems to be Italy, where they believed conspiracies about scientists. I'm not totally shocked because that is the place where a judge actually convicted 6 seismologists of manslaughter for failing to predict an earthquake in 2009. That sentence was later overturned by an appeals court, at which point the court was loudly booed by a crowd of people who thought that the courts were in league with the scientists. Anyway, I found all this kind of interesting, especially in light of a recent FBI briefing. And note that I do believe in some conspiracies about intelligence agencies because we do have ample evidence for them. Just throwing my conflict of interest out there. Warning that the Chinese and Russian governments are actively engaging in a campaign of misinformation to seed distrust in American politics ahead of the midterms coming up this November. Specifically, they are amplifying conspiracy theories that question the integrity of our elections, which Trump and his minions have been pushing for 2 years and counting. Last year, 2021, the United States got a 67 from the Corruption Perception Index, which is a scale of 0 to 100. So basically we got a C. Like we pass the ethics test, but we won't necessarily be on the ethics honor roll. That suggests that while we are perceived as less corrupt, conspiracy theories about political corruption might be very likely to take hold here, not just among the extreme right wing, who already believe it, but also among more moderate voters and even among left wing people. So maybe keep that in mind. You're going to be seeing a lot of conspiracy theories flying around Facebook and other social media sites in the next few months, mostly about the election. Make sure you do your research before you hit that share button, even and especially if the post matches up with what you already think is wrong with our government.